Okay, so today we're going deep on something that gets thrown around a lot, especially in the business world, founder's mindset.
Hmm.
But we're not just talking about the hype, the hustle harder stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to actually break down what makes this mindset tick and how it can be useful, whether you're starting a company or just trying to, I don't know, level up in life in general.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because people hear founder
Yep.
and they immediately think startups, tech, Silicon Valley. But these core principles, they're actually much broader than that. They can apply to pretty much anyone who wants to take ownership, be proactive, really drive towards their goals. And that could be in any area of life, really.
So it's less about the specific industry and more about a way of thinking, a way of approaching challenges.
Exactly.
And we've got some great sources today that lay out some really intriguing characteristics of this founder's mindset, like having a bold mission, being customer obsessed, empowering those on the front lines. There's a lot to unpack here. It's definitely more nuanced than just, work all night and never give up.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Each of these characteristics actually contributes to a company's success in very specific ways, especially in today's world where things move so fast.
Mhm.
Take, for example, a bold mission. That's more than just an idea, It's a deep belief in what you're doing, that almost unshakable vision that helps you push through the inevitable challenges.
Right.
Look at, say, Tesla. Their mission wasn't just to build cars, right? It was way bigger, to
Yeah.
change the world's entire energy landscape. And that clarity, that powerful vision, that's what attracts the best talent, the loyal customers.
Y-
It becomes this driving force.
It's inspiring, right? You can almost feel the energy behind it. Okay, so we've got bold mission. What about customer obsession? Again, it's a phrase you hear a lot, but how does it actually play out in the real world?
It's all about deep understanding. You're not just selling something, you're genuinely trying to solve your customers' needs, even the ones they maybe haven't even articulated yet. You're going above and beyond, maybe even changing your whole way of operating to make their experience better. Think about Amazon. They became a giant, really, by obsessing over the customer experience at every single step. Free shipping, easy returns, huge selection. It was a totally new standard for online shopping.
It's interesting that willingness to adapt, to constantly evolve based on what your customers are telling you. It kind of reminds me of another characteristic we've got here, frontline empowerment.
Yeah.
What exactly does that look like in a company?
It's all about agility and innovation. You empower those who are closest to the customer, the people actually interacting with them day to day. You give them the autonomy to make decisions on the spot, to take risks, to truly own their work. A great example is Zappos, the shoe company. They're known for their incredible customer service, and that's largely because they trust their employees to do whatever it takes to resolve an issue, even if it means bending company policies.
There's a lot of trust involved there, and it sounds like it really pays off. Now, another one that caught my eye was bias for action. Is that just a fancy way of saying move fast and break things?
It's tempting to simplify it, but it's actually a bit more nuanced. It's about willingness to experiment, to iterate quickly, to avoid that analysis paralysis that can sometimes bog companies down. It's about taking calculated risks, sure, but it's also about learning from everything you do. The wins, the losses, all of it becomes valuable data. Think of early Google. They were constantly testing new features, new products. Some were flops, absolutely. But that constant experimentation, that willingness to try things, is what allowed them to innovate so rapidly.
So it's about learning by doing, not being afraid to fail,
Mm.
and definitely not getting stuck in overthinking. Okay, so we've covered bold mission, customer obsession, frontline empowerment, bias for action, and the last one on our list is aversion to bureaucracy. Seems pretty straightforward, but how does that play out in a company setting?
Yeah, that one's all about efficiency. Streamline processes, getting rid of unnecessary approvals. It's about creating a culture that's quick, that can react to changes in the market. And this can be a huge advantage, especially for startups who are going up against those bigger, slower companies. It's like a speedboat versus a cruise ship.
So it's about being nimble, adaptable. This is all super interesting stuff, but I remember you mentioned earlier that a founder's mindset is useful even outside of starting a business. What did you mean by that?
Absolutely. This is what I find so fascinating about these principles. They're not limited to the business world. They
Oh,
can be applied to personal growth, to your career, really just navigating everyday life. Think
yeah.
about it. Bias for action can help you tackle procrastination. Customer obsession can translate to building stronger relationships by truly understanding the needs of those around you. And frontline empowerment can help you own your career trajectory, take initiative, and be a leader, regardless of your job title.
That's such a powerful point. It's about applying these principles to any goal, really. So the big question now is, how do we actually develop this mindset? Because it sounds great, But it's not something that just magically happens, right?
Mm.
I know our sources have some practical steps for cultivating these qualities.
Yeah, they do. And they all involve pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone a bit. It's about becoming more proactive, taking ownership. The first one they suggest is practicing making judgments in tough or uncertain situations. And you don't need to start with some huge life-altering decision. Start small. Speak up in a meeting when you usually stay quiet. Finally tackle that challenging task you've been putting off. It's about building that muscle of confident decision-making, getting comfortable with a little bit of risk.
Okay, so it's those small but significant steps, those little pushes outside of your comfort zone. What about this idea of trusting your judgment and doing more with less? That feels really relevant these days, especially when resources can be so tight.
Absolutely. It's a real challenge, but it's also incredibly empowering. It forces you to trust your instincts, to be resourceful, to get creative, especially when you don't have a lot to work with. And honestly, this scrappy, can-do spirit, it's often what defines those truly successful founders. Instead of second-guessing yourself or waiting for permission, you just take action and figure it out.
I love that make it happen attitude.
Yeah.
And finally, there's this idea of taking ownership with minimal supervision. I can imagine that sounds freeing to some people, maybe a little scary to others.
It's definitely a shift in mindset. It's about initiative, being accountable, but it's also about developing that internal drive that allows you to shine without needing someone constantly looking over your shoulder. You're proactively looking for challenges, anticipating needs, and taking the lead on solutions. That's leadership, whether you're leading a team or leading yourself towards a personal goal.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from bold missions to customer obsession to empowering those around you. And it's clear that this founder's mindset is a pretty potent mix of vision, action, and resilience. But the key takeaway, I think, is that these principles aren't just for those launching the next big tech company. They're tools anyone can use, right, to handle challenges, make things happen, create their own definition of success.
That's it, exactly. The power is in recognizing that we can all cultivate these qualities. We can all apply them to whatever we set our minds to.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. If you were to adopt just one element of this founder's mindset tomorrow, just one, which would it be and why? Take some time to think about these ideas, see how they resonate with you, and maybe you'll discover that you've got more of that founder's spirit than you realized. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and until next time.
See you then.